I've always wanted talk show music in my life, and I just got it.
That was special.
Yeah,
Did you pick that?
I didn't, but I think I'm going to make it my theme song. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sports Beach to you. My name is Selema Masekela. Honored to be here with Paulie and Conrad. Before we came on the stage to have this conversation about sustainability in sports and the protection of our playing fields, Conrad Anker, who's been to Everest 3 times.
That's 3 amongst us.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's 3 more than I ever will be. Conrad was like, I'm really nervous. I'm petrified to get up on the stage. And I'm like, but you occupy the top of mountains, Conrad.
Well, thank you, Selema, for the introduction, and welcome everyone here. So, yeah, this is my nervous space.
All right, well, we'll try to make you comfortable. Paulie, when it comes to this conversation of sustainability in sports and protection of our playing fields, what's the mindset for Yeti as far as how you do it? We see so many brands that are like trying to figure out transactional ways to participate in this conversation, but it seems like with Yeti, you decided to put it into the brand's DNA.
Yeah, I think, we make products that are indestructible and not meant for the landfill. We never intended to be eco-warriors in that regard. We just intended to make great products. But one thing we always care about is the places we play and the places those products were made to perform, which is the outdoors. So we've always wanted to protect the places we play is a big part of the brand. But I think where that really comes into play is with our ambassadors, like as Conrad is. We have an interesting relationship with our ambassadors where they really lead the brand, right? They guide us through communities and issues that are important to them and important to their community, like Conrad has many, and we follow. Who better to guide us through than someone who's the absolute pinnacle of that community and can take us and show us where that community needs help, and that's how we follow. So it's for us, it's a little less about picking an issue and going for it. It's more about allowing our river guides to tell us where they need help. Yep.
And as far as your ambassador relationship goes with Conrad, it's not traditional at all. How would you describe this relationship?
Well, I would call it fatherly to the brand. Conrad, you know how Yeti marketing exists in the brand is the product was adopted by the fishing people in Texas and Florida, and then other people started to use the product. So we started to show up, in ranch communities and then climb communities and snow communities, and now we're in surf and skate. So the product did a lot of work, and then we just followed, right, and supported those communities. And when we followed and found the communities, there were the legends of these communities who were actually using our product and loved our product. And so that was the first step. And that's how, we get introduced to people like Conrad. He genuinely loves the product. And from there, and I've said this before, he became our river guide to the outdoor community, took us under our wing and showed us where to be and made great connections for us. And then with the product development, Conrad's always been heavily involved because it has to support his way of life and his community's way of life. So for Yeti, Conrad is a father figure. He's involved so much more than just he's a face of something that sells something.
Yeah.
He's involved in all of our product development. He's involved in a lot of our big decisions and other ambassadors. Most of our ambassadors have touched Conrad at some point in their life, and Conrad's kind of anointed them in. But that's the trust we have, and that's how we build our relationships.
Conrad, we met last year. We had an incredible dinner in Vail, and to see the manner in which you talk about climbing and the outdoors and these spaces over your 30 years, I came away from that dinner like really, really inspired. For me, as a surfer and a snowboarder and someone who loves to play outside, to see that even for as long as you've been doing it, you're still as adamant today that we have to preserve these spaces as you were when you started years ago.
Yeah, thank you. And we work so we can go play. That's what we live for. And so when we find a place where we like to play, we have to take care of it, and that's the outdoors, the beautiful places we have in here. So that's sort of the foundation of that, and then our work with Protect Our Winters, environmental, opening the outdoors to more people.
Why, or I should say, when you're figuring out a relationship with a brand, you're an ambassador for North Face, you're an ambassador for Yeti. What are the parameters you're looking for when it comes to being able to feel like you have a partner in this work outside of just the sport you do?
Yeah, as a mountain climber, there isn't a game, there isn't. It's experiential, so we have to come back and be storytellers. This September, I'll be 40 years with North Face, and I've had a great time working in marketing there. So, but then being able to take this information, and 8 years ago, starting work with Yeti and introducing to the outdoor community, finding events that resonate with the climbers out there and the people that are there, and adding validity to it, but then also Yeti allowing me to be who I am on social media.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. When you sign an ambassador, you're certainly at Yeti. You know, you're signing on to so much more than just a personality, right? You are in an absolute relationship, and I always say our ambassador deals, they're lifetime deals, right? And we spend years with each other before we make an official relationship, because we both have to understand who each other is. And I think that's why we're, you know, it's a special thing, our program. But each ambassador has something special they bring, a passion or a purpose. And really, it's our role to let them do that, give them a platform to do that. We can't always give them millions and millions. We give them a platform and support to go do their thing. Because, like I said, it's a two-way relationship, right? It's like, what can we help with? And it needs to be two-way. So all of Conrad's amazing initiatives, whether it's POW or Memphis Rocks or whatever it is, we're in full support of. Even if our other ambassadors actually aren't aligned with Conrad, that's okay. You have to broaden your horizon and support your ambassador in their endeavor, and that's a big part of it.
And to call Conrad outspoken would be kind of an understatement.
Yeah, he's real quiet and subtle. When he doesn't like something, you'll know.
Good trouble. Let's keep it going. So.
But that's a good call. Conrad will often look at our marketing and call something out, or it's not authentic to his community or the way that he wants it to be represented. And you'll do that with product too. For those who don't know, Conrad has a very famous gear garage in his house in Bozeman, where I would say a lot of Yeti products are developed and critiqued. But that's a special relationship that he can be very honest with us, even if we're very late in development. We've killed a lot of stuff because Conrad and the other ambassadors have said, it's not quite there. That's the trust we put in him, and that's the relationship we have.
I think it's interesting, especially when it comes to the conversation of sustainability in the outdoors, that in these sports, in surfing and snowboarding and mountain climbing and skiing, a lot of these consumers pursue it for pleasure and for entertainment. And you would think that your core consumers are just as concerned about the environment and sustainability, but it's usually not the case. And so it's a voice like yours, Conrad, I think ends up becoming very interesting, because you're an icon. They look to you as someone that they're looking to emulate and maybe get 1% of that and how they have that experience. How do you feel like you're able to engage with fans when they see you really speaking out about these things, especially when something like Protect Our Winters, which is about how to make sure that we don't lose snow in our mountains, has become controversial, where people are like, oh, why are you talking about that?
Yeah, I get the stick to mountain climbing, stay in your lane, and it got to the point where I had to close direct messages because I would post about the environment, I'd post about racial injustice, I'd post about climate, and then I'd just get beat up and it would ruin my day. So close that off, but having support from brands like Yeti, which in Montana is great because it it fires on all cylinders. It's in the hardware store, it's in the camping store, and you'll see a Yeti sticker on a Hunter's pickup truck, and you'll see a Yeti sticker on a Prius. And they share the same passion for good product and being outdoors, and bringing them together through a brand is changing the way we perceive the world.
I just can't comprehend the guy who's been to Everest 3 times and shown us the magic of what climbing is like with Meru, that people would come in your DMs and be like, hey, just stick to climbing.
Yeah, it's, they're in get out of politics isn't what I want you for. But the other side of it is that my fans that support me, and they're like, hey, you spoke up about Native American women and the crisis that we have in Montana. I support them. I'll go and like their a post and comment on that and reciprocate, and they support me, and it makes me feel good about the stances I take.
And I love that you as Yeti as a brand says, no, we've got your back. Be who you want to be.
Yeah, that's right. We are in partnership with the human being, not what that human being has accomplished. It's a great byproduct, but we are, and we have various ambassadors across all sorts of crazy things, hunt, surf, and they all support different things. I think, climate change has become a political thing, and I think we all agree that we want to protect the places we play. I think there's not a lot of agreement on how to do that between a variety of groups. And we have representatives in all those groups, and I think what we try and do is support all of them in their endeavor to protect their wild places and see if there's some commonality that can come out of it to get good stuff achieved. Now, if one of our trusted ambassadors has a vision for something and they're all in and we want to support them, we will do that. If other ambassadors aren't wholeheartedly into that, that's okay. It's okay. You kind of have to seed as much as you can with the end goal in sight, as opposed to say, you're right, you're wrong, I'm backing this one. And I think that's what we try and do. And Conrad brings us a lot of stuff. Every time he's on a new board or he's got great. Let's see where it goes. Let's give it a shot. We need this to succeed, and we're not going to put heavy barriers on things to stop any of it.
What is your advice for brands who sort of, I look back at like 2020, 2021, when we started to have a very large conversation about race and social justice, right? And suddenly all of these brands were lining up to be like, hey, we need to get some diverse faces out here and show that we're with the times. And then probably right around the middle of last year, all the brands were like, victory, we're done, right? Like, is it over? Is there anything else that we need to do? And we're like, yeah, we haven't even gotten started yet. Like, are you interested in building this into the identity of your brand?
Yeah, so, and I think the key thing here, is such a good question, is you got to do the work, right? You can't jump the line. And that's Yeti marketing in general. We got into surf 5 years ago because everyone was using Yeti on the beaches, right? And the WSL were like, you guys should come and sponsor the WSL.
The World Surf
League. And we were like, look, no, we're not ready. We're not ready. We haven't done the work in this community to prove ourselves to this community. And so for the next 5 years, we really worked hard with that community to prove that we were part of that community and found the right connections and developed it. And now we are a sponsor of the World Surf League. But it's the same with every other issue. You have to do the work, right? You could cut a check and sponsor anything. You could cut a check and sign anyone. You're jumping many steps, and when things go south, you've got nothing to point to, and that's where I think we've always taken that approach. So when people point finger at us, our very first Yeti Presents film, we've done 70 films, was about an African American rodeo, and people know that, they respect that, they see the work we do in that community, and we don't do the talking. We let the community talk for us because we continue to do the work. I think brands that don't do the work, jump the line, look for the quick win, they're the ones that get into trouble. But that's our philosophy of everything. We do not have a short-term view on anything, whether that's sales or anything. It is about building a brand for the next 200 years, not two. And we say that all day long. And with social issues, it's the exact same. How do we build this relationship for the next 200 years?
So that the approach that you take today is going to be relative to who you are as a brand 5 years from now.
100%. I want people in 5 years' time to say, well, what have you done? And I want them to look back through 5 years of intense work and go, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Overall, how do you see the responsibility of brands in sport when it comes to this larger conversation of sustainability? I mean, when I think about sports at its root, it's based in creating healthy communities and human connection, right? That's why we play. That's why we like to watch people play at the highest level. And in this conversation that we're having about the environment and sustainability, all of those things, all of those touch points, how games are played, the fields that we play in, they're affected all the way down to the root level, all the way to the macro. You can't hide from it. So what is the responsibility of sport and of brands in this conversation? Because there are a lot of people just like, I hope this goes away.
Well, it's not going away. That's for sure. You want to hope. I think it's a couple-fold. It's you got to protect the places you play. That's a big one for us, whether that's, if you're in the fish community or the surf community or the snow community. You have a responsibility to protect those places, right? Without it, there is no playing field, literally. The other thing is, we have to do away with single-use plastic, and that's why I think we're maybe overly generous with our support of communities and sporting groups, because we want them to have our product. It's a functional thing that eliminates plastic. It's reusable, and that has a huge impact. It's really our way of showing that we care and we want a better solution for it. So I think it's multifaceted, but one is like, well, where can you have the most impact in the places you play? That is, for us, the biggest one. We want to remove plastic. We want reusable products. That's where we think we can have an impact. And I think if other brands have their point of view and can apply that in their world, then as a congregation, we'll be better off. So protect the places that you play in is a big one, and have a solution. We have a solution. We think we need more of it in the world.
Congregation, church in the south of France. Where do you see the future pointing in this conversation, Conrad?
Sustainability in the outdoor industry, which is where I come from, is the consumer expects it. Patagonia has set a high bar, and that is their brand. Other brands have a different way of looking at it, but the consumer in that space is looking for a product that they can feel comfortable about. And whether it's the purchasing decision, we don't know, but Yeti's long-term marketing plan is sort of a reflection of the product they make. It's super durable, it's going to last you a long time, and it's there to stay. So another side of it is that most of our Yeti ambassadors are experiential. So we're going out there, whether it's bull riding or cooking or something like that, we have to share a story to bring people into that. And when we bring them into our communities, we've created new friends, we've allowed them to see the world the way we see it.
Can I ask, Conrad, you're on your way to the Himalayas next. What have you seen impact already when you go back up there? Have things changed?
Oh my. So here's a joke. Remember Bazooka bubblegum? They would have the little wax wrappers, and you'd open them up, and there was like this joke that said, "How do mountains hear?" And it was with mountaineers. And I probably saw that when I was 12.
Still a good one.
And I've kept that with me all the time. So I'm the ears and the eyes of the mountains. And we go up there, it's climate denialism is done. Everyone agrees anthropogenic climate change is real. Look at the data. we have the tools there, but now we have to move past that and get the climate obstructionists to say, hey, we're going to work on this together, because it's not just the short term. We're thinking about what's going to be like for 200 years down the line. The generations are yet to come here, and are they going to look back at us like, you didn't do anything when you should have known better?
And from a cost standpoint for brands, this next generation, especially of consumers, these kids are looking at brands and they want to see like what your signature marks are, what you stand for, and why, and how you're genuinely involved. So from a data standpoint, are you able to see like where because you're not just doing this to feel good as a brand. Like
No.
this has to be profitable. How are you able to sort of to track that data-wise to be like these investments, taking these chances is also good for business?
Yeah, it's funny. I get people asking me questions all the time, like, "Hey, how are you guys going to keep this going? Because I buy one cooler, I'm not sure I need two, right? Like, I've got this for life now." And people are like, "Are you worried about this? Does this keep you?" I'm like, "No, it's amazing, isn't it the goal? Isn't the goal to buy something once and be done with it?" We've also got a ton of other products if you'd like to buy those, but the goal was never to make something that would be replenished. The goal was to make something that was reliable and could last forever. One, as a consumer promise, but two, as a promise to this is how things need to be made, you know? And the sales and stuff will take care of itself if you look after your people, you look after your products, you look after the environments that they live in, and that's our belief. So you buy one Yeti product, great, fantastic. You don't buy another because you don't need to. That should never be a bad thing. And so we can't let ourselves worry about that. We just have to keep making stuff that is never gonna hit the landfill. So I think there is, though, a very conscious consumer, to your point, that is looking for sustainable options, which is great. Our product just falls in that place, and there's a lot of work to be done. But I think there are a lot of brands out there that just don't put the care into making stuff, and that's their supply chain. It's everything, and that's, you know, it's sad, but it's I don't think it's going to hold you for the next 200 years, which is our goal. We want a brand as strong in 200 years as it is today, and that means some big decisions every day that aren't quick wins.
You talked about storytelling earlier, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the brand, is that I can go to the site and I can go and pick these stories where I'm able to see all different types of folks experiencing and being passionate in the outdoors. You know, what I don't think of, people think of like fishing culture as being necessarily someone who looks like me. But I see these stories on your site with black fishermen, brown fishermen, indigenous folks throughout the outdoors. How important is that conversation about access and creating more access overall to this idea of long-term sustainability?
Yeah, I think that's our focus. How do we get access to the wild? You think the wild's pretty accessible, right? You just walk into your backyard in Bozeman and go climb something. But it's not. If you're an inner city kid, you have no idea. How do I even get out there? Who do I talk to? Like, what skills do I need to get out there? So access to the wild is a huge barrier to having people in the wild. And if we don't have people in the wild, then it's, you know, we have a saying at Yeti that the best of human nature is humans in nature. We feel that if you get out there, you're just going to be a better person. So we need more people out there. Prime example next to me, and spends his whole life getting young kids out into it who wouldn't experience it normally. That's a huge goal for us. On the storytelling side, we've always told great stories. We love it because we want to uncover the people who live in these crazy places. They've got great stories to tell, and they're not told. They're overlooked. You know, they're not super sexy stories historically, but that is ridiculous. We want to tell these stories not to change people's minds about the outdoors and these people, but to open them. You know, I'm not a tornado chaser, but I love our tornado chasing film. That is a whole community of people who experience their outside world in a different way. So I think access to the wild's a huge barrier, and Conrad's fighting that every day. And telling stories about these interesting people. You know, they're not people you meet every day. And you may have a preconceived idea of them. How can we use the wild to break that down is why we make those films. Those films make zero money, trust me. They make very little financial sense, so as joke. But we love making them. We feel they're important. But your work getting kids out into the wild, I think, is the real inspiration behind a lot of it.
Yeah, my association with Memphis Rocks and Tom Shadyac, genius film producer, and opening up climbing, which is a team sport. So when you and I go to do a climb, I have to trust in you, and you have to trust in me. And that communication method is a positive thing going forward for humanity. So the more people we can get out climbing, the better off we'd be.
Yeah, Memphis Rocks is incredible. They're going through some financial challenges right now, but it's such a powerful thing to be. When I saw that film and to see young black kids getting exposed to climbing as a lifestyle, not as just something to try and check a box off of. I published this book called Afro Surf last year. It is a 330-page coffee book that is dedicated to the idea of surf culture through an African lens. And, you know, people have been going to Africa for years to search for the greatest waves ever, with indigenous people sort of cheering on the beach. And we wanted to do something that showcases it from the inside out. This is what the culture looks like with actual Africans surfing, and how this is going to change the definition of what surf culture looks like. And I think that when we have these larger conversations about accessibility, creating more landscape, the more people care, the more we as a planet, as a collective, are going to care about sustainability and care about the environment, because it really does affect us all.
How about that? Pretty good. Amen.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Paulie, Conrad, good luck to you in the Himalayas, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a killer panel, killer product, killer athlete.